Nam Satnam, beautiful sovereign woman Satnam, and welcome back to the Sovereign Woman Movement podcast. Today's episode is really, really exciting for me to share because we're going to be diving into a topic that's really incredibly personal and close to my own heart. It is also crucial for any woman that is striving for success, especially as it relates to their business. And yes, this is still associated with her ability to be able to balance both the masculine and divine feminine energy within us. It's not about being a slave driver. In fact, what most women rarely consider in their lives is how their mental health is actually linked to the success of their business or their career, if that is something that they're seeking or reaching out for. But what if I told you that unlocking your full potential in business lies in addressing something that's very deeply personal and most of the time overlooked? What I'm talking about is your unhealed generational patterns of emotional pain. These patterns are not just minor roadblocks, they are profound indicators of how ancestral emotional patterns and traumas significantly affect your professional life. Think about this, your reactions in a business meeting. Sometimes the feelings you get of being undervalued despite your achievements at work, or perhaps you struggle with discipline or being assertive. These are not just personal traits. These are manifestations of deeper ancestral karmic patterns. Now, these patterns can absolutely drain your energy. We're going to talk about burnout today. They can lead to fatigue, or even worse, they can create a successful business facade where you're this stereotypical successful woman on the outside with a thriving business, but you have a toxic personal life, perhaps even on your second or third divorce. Look, this is not a strange topic for me. This is something that I myself went through. Not only do I have personal experience, but this is one of the things that I help women overcome inside of my academy. And it's one of the most common things that gets overlooked. For me, I really, really thrived in my masculine energy. And these were from programs coming from a mother and grandmother who really just never relied on the support or protection of a man. And because of that, I really did not allow my husband to be who he really is, which is a protector. I've talked about a lot of the toxic relationship patterns that we've healed, which you can go check out that episode here on my YouTube channel. But in essence, I was basically a high functioning woman who was carrying a lot of depression, a lot of addiction, and who ultimately, when I realized this, completely burned out, meaning my nervous system crashed. And now apparently there are even diagnoses out there that talk about what burnout is. Now, as we talk about 4 ways to recognize if this is you, I'm going to share with you some statistics. I'm going to share with you some knowledge as it relates to burnout and some really shocking things to make you and help you become aware if this is something that you yourself are struggling with. Because, especially in the last 3 years, I have seen women that have reached the top heights of their careers and have to close down their businesses overnight because they bypassed the healing journey. And that was me too. It cost me almost my life. It cost me almost my personal relationships. It caused my nervous system to become so flared up with emotional, mental exhaustion that it was accompanied by decreased motivation, by having lower performance and negative attitudes towards me and towards the place where I was creating my business. Janet says, that's exactly how I feel right now. Sister, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you here for joining us. I will be sharing with you some statistics. It's pretty scary. Apparently, there's a stat out there that about 75% of people are experiencing or have experienced burnout and they don't even know it. And so you may not realize you've hit burnout. And many of the women that come to me have reached that point where they can no longer even go to work, where they can no longer get out of bed, where they feel so completely disconnected from themselves and from the world around them, especially worried and confused because this is not how they all used to be. I mean, for me, I was an overachiever. Not only did I run a successful real estate brokerage, I managed over 100 entrepreneurs under me at my last peak in the real estate community, but I never ever took care of myself. I put everyone else first, and I made sure that I stayed busy. And I wanted to stay busy because I didn't want to face and deal with all of the pain that was going on within me. The other thing is that I was finding my identity in my work, my worth in my productivity. That is something that I had to really, really work through, because now I can gladly say that I've entered into my divine feminine era, where I've allowed myself to truly flourish in creativity and intuition, as well as still absorbing and being balanced in my masculine energy to now go out into the world and serve more and more women. But the truth is that many of us are very high functioning, and we don't realize until we can't get out of bed. And like I said, with these women that I've noticed these patterns in the last 3 years, these are women that I looked from the outside and I respected and admired. I never thought they were going through anything emotionally. And then literally overnight, they've had to close multi-million-dollar businesses because their nervous systems can no longer sustain the fact that they were bypassing all of this emotional pain. So today we're going to talk about the good news, that there is a solution, that these ancestral imprints that we're running under unconsciously and that are draining us from our energy, from our vitality, from our motivation, and from our creative process, and putting us in these destructive forces, they don't have to define your business journey or even your life. By recognizing and disrupting, that's important, these deep rooted influences, you can channel the energy that was previously consumed that you were using to destroy, to unconsciously stay in states of anxiety and depression and addiction, into creation. Because we're all here to learn to work with energy. That's why you incarnated. Everything in this world is a frequency. And when you adopt specific technologies, which we're going to talk about today, you can instead be conscious of energy within you and use it to create instead of to destroy, which is what most of us do unconsciously as well. You can use this energy for growth, for scaling your business, and ultimately so that you don't become a stereotype of the successful woman on the outside with the money, but on the seventh divorce or at home where your children don't even speak to you. So let's talk about the actual ways for you to recognize where these generational patterns are specifically impacting your business life, your financial life, your money, and everything that relates to prosperity. So the first thing we're going to talk about is burnout. And like I said, burnout is now a diagnosis, and what doctors say that it is, it's basically a form of exhaustion that can be caused by constantly feeling swamped. It's really a result of excessive and like prolonged emotional, physical, and mental stress. It's like depression. You don't just wake up one day depressed. It's a buildup of energy. What is depression? Depression is the suppression of emotions. So you're suppressing emotions. You're not allowing yourself to feel anger. You're not allowing yourself to feel the hate. You're not allowing yourself to feel all of these other emotions because you want to be good. You don't want to be judged, and you don't want to cause a havoc. You know, women have higher immune disease stats than a man. And it's because women love to take on the problems of everyone in their household. They do this unconsciously. And because they take on the problems of everyone in the household, including their partner, not only are they struggling with their own mental stuff, but they're also struggling with the entire household's mental struggle. So what happens is that this state of unconsciousness and of mental stress, because that's what it is, it puts us in these prolonged emotional rabbit holes where we can no longer get out of. We feel like our energy is depleted. We're always tired. We're exhausted, regardless of what we do. There's a mental distance from one's job or feeling really negative. And what I recently read was that 75% of workers have experienced burnout, with 40% of workers saying they've experienced burnout specifically, especially during the pandemic, which means the rate of burnout has increased tremendously. 67% of all workers believe burnout has worsened even more after the pandemic, because that's what it was. And so for me, what that really related to, and this is why the generational trauma patterns are very important if you truly want to be successful in life. The thing about when you're unconscious in these patterns, so let's say you've been in a pattern of addiction. Let's say you've been in a pattern of maybe childhood trauma. You went through some serious things in childhood. Perhaps you're on a constant state of depression. Perhaps, you're in a toxic relationship where there's a lot of drama. All of these are ancestral generational patterns that we've talked about that I help you all disrupt. But the thing about these patterns is that they are unconscious and we don't know how to stop them. So what that is doing to the physical body, and even if you were conscious, what it is doing to the physical body and to the brain is that it is deteriorating it. How it's deteriorating is because you're basically under a constant state of stress. There's no space for you to relax, literally. Like even at night, many of us think we fall asleep, but if you are somebody who is constantly under stress, the stress hormone known as cortisol is running through your body even when you're sleeping. So you might go to sleep and you say you got 10 hours of sleep, but it feels like you only slept for 2 hours. And that's because you're not even able to disconnect. You're not able to go into the deep REM states of sleep. And the reason that is because of the high levels of cortisol that are running through your body. So when we talk about burnout, what doctors mostly miss is the holistic approach of understanding that we're talking about a hormonal imbalance and that there is no pills, there are no surgeries to fix a hormonal imbalance. That in order for us to truly recuperate from burnout, we have to find holistic practices that address body, mind, and spirit, that address the emotions, so that we can slowly start to reduce the amount of cortisol that is running through your body, and so that you can then increase your vitality, which is your energy levels. So what this looks like is mindfulness practices. For me, it became Kundalini yoga therapy. I didn't have to go to a traditional doctor. I became my own doctor because through my own practice, I began to balance out my hormones. I began to release the addiction to cortisol, and I started to basically heal and rewire my nervous system and my brain, which then allowed me to have vitality where I didn't need the coffee. I didn't need the energy drinks. I didn't need outer stimulants to basically help me deal with this existential crisis, this overwhelmment, which is what burnout truly is. So many women are now struggling with this, but sadly, a lot of the solutions are not really, really getting to the root cause, which goes back to the body, mind, spirit connection. The other way that you know that you're facing generational patterns that are blocking your prosperity and business flow and success is hitting these financial plateaus. So if you find yourself repeatedly like hitting the same financial ceilings, like you've never made more than $100,000, or you've never made more than $200,000, or even more than $70,000, or maybe you're somebody who makes $100,000 or even makes $1 million, but then you squander it. Like you waste it, you don't keep any of it, you don't make it grow. Basically, you have a blockage as it relates to wealth. So, what this is all about is that we have to think about this, especially if you are someone who no one in your family has been a millionaire before. If no one in your lineage has been a millionaire, then it is harder for you to really accept that you can be a millionaire yourself. I was very blessed because my dad, they call him El Millón. So to me, growing up with my dad, who they called him El Millón, the millionaire, it was almost programmed in my system to basically understand and believe that it was going to be easy for me to become a millionaire one day. However, I had a big, big pattern from within me from my grandparents, both grandfathers on both sides of the family lineage, especially my dad's side. I didn't really meet my first grandfather because he was murdered at a very young age. However, he was very successful in business. But when he died, my grandmother had to sell a lot of the things to support her and the 8 kids that he left behind, leaving them in a very low poverty state. My other grandfather was an incredibly charismatic, amazing man. However, he made a lot of money, but then he would spend it all. And it wasn't always in things that would create more wealth. It was a lot of things were being squandered through addictions and hanging out with friends and probably even hanging out with some women out there. So there was always like this program and plateaus of this is how much money I make. How am I going to make more? I've never seen any of my ancestors do it until, of course, things actually started to happen around me and my family reached these heights. And then it was a lot easier for me to actually believe that. And you really don't have to have someone in your family to that is a millionaire to actually believe that you can be a millionaire, but it does make it more difficult if you don't have anyone in your family, because what you have to work on is your mindset. It's the beliefs. It's not that God doesn't want to give you the money. It's that you haven't done the generational healing work to A, believe you're worth it, and B, also believe that you don't have to hustle. I'm not saying that I don't work a lot, because I do, but I don't consider it work right now. This is my life purpose. This is what I've always wanted to do since I was a little girl. So for me, I don't equate my worth no longer with the productivity. I equate it with how fulfilled I feel. And see, if you're running on generational patterns, you're getting these plateaus of money, but you're also very, very unfulfilled, which is a connection or correlation also to what it means to be in a burnout situation. The other thing that you have to really pay attention to, and you know that you're running on generational patterns of ancestral karma, is if at work, especially, you're very consistent with these reactive emotional responses, or in your business, that you're experiencing these really big feelings of frustration, of anger, maybe in meetings, maybe with coworkers. Perhaps you even take that energy back home with you, where you're actually now bleeding those problems into your actual home. Perhaps there are these emotional responses in you that make you feel, and I see this all the time. It used to trip me out so much because I was like, why am I in a business meeting right now? And why is everyone around me acting like a child? And of course, if you see that in someone else, it's probably because you yourself are doing that too. And you do wonder, why do people come to meetings just to have meetings and nothing gets resolved and everyone's just arguing and everybody's like stressed in the meeting? Well, all of that has to do with childhood problems and childhood wounds. If you work in a workplace where there's a lot of toxicity, there's probably a lot of unhealed children in that environment, or perhaps again, people that are running on these very, very ugly karmic patterns of generational trauma. In either case, what we need to do is analyze within ourselves, how am I reacting and responding at work? And could this be actually solved? Because whether you're an employee or perhaps you are somebody who is a business owner and is a leader and is leading a lot of people, this absolutely is important and crucial, because not only do you have to have emotional intelligence for your regular life, personal life, but emotional intelligence is the foundation of success for all business leaders. For you to be able to be a leader that keeps a beautiful, vibrant team excited and motivated, but by the same token, you yourself are also able to motivate yourself and be able to not be reactive to people's personalities. That's really what the essence of being a leader is all about. Now, the last thing that we need to pay attention to, and this is one of the most common ways that I see that women are running on generational karmic patterns, and has to do with the stereotype, where basically the your work life is now impacting your personal life. So you're basically the stereotypical success, where again you are very successful in business, you've made a lot of money, but unfortunately you also are on your seventh divorce, or your children don't talk to you, or you don't have a relationship with your parents, basically any type of intimate relationships. Because what this has to do with is you basically don't have boundaries. And because you equate your worth to your productivity and to your job, which is what I used to do, these emotional patterns then and the stress from work, they follow you home and you prioritize work. That's what I used to do. I very driven in my masculine energy. Work was everything for me. I was there financially for my children. I was there in every aspect, but was I truly there? Was I present with them? I would say no. And I couldn't, because I was going through my own depression. I was going through my own emotional problems. And because of that, I found the easiest way for me to find worth and value. And for me, actually, this started since I was a little girl. Because when I was a little girl, my parents were very stressed. They were immigrants from another country. So when I was growing up, the only way that I could feel worthy or feel valued is by getting straight A's at school. So I would always get not like straight A's. I would get like 4.25. Make sure I got the extra credit. Make sure, that I was over excelling, right? But even with that, mom didn't notice. And it wasn't because, again, my worth, it was because she herself was going through her own emotional pain. So when you equate your worth to your work, and then you allow your work to bleed into your personal and intimate relationships, you are 100% running under generational karmic patterns of emotional pain that have to be disrupted. Because true success is being successful in business and also being successful at home, being able to have intimate relationships. And like I said, I have a very fulfilling business now. I absolutely love what I do, but my priority is first me. My second priority is my household. It's my children and my husband. They are my priority. Then comes work. And it wasn't like that for me before. It was work, my business, then it was everything else after that because my value was equated to the work and the productivity and the accolades I got, being president of all these nonprofit organizations, being a broker, managing hundreds of people under me. Those certificates, the awards, the recognition, that is how I found my worth. And yet it was an unfulfilling, never ending journey of never feeling fully satisfied or fully seen. So as you can see, these four are very important ways that you can recognize if you are needing to heal generational karmic patterns. Because what's interesting is that as I disrupted those patterns and healed myself, those four recognitions or those 4 points of awareness dissolved. I wasn't struggling anymore with my intimate relationships. I wasn't burning out anymore, even though, like I said, not that I don't do work all day. I not only operate two membership communities where I teach Kundalini yoga classes, Kundalini yoga therapy. I coach, I mentor spiritual psychotherapy classes, 4 a week, 3 to 4 a week. And not only that, I handle my own marketing. I'm a techie, so I handle my own business. For example, funnels, marketing, Facebook ads, all those things. I do all of that. So it's not like I don't do anything anymore and now I just sit in a cave and meditate. It's quite the opposite. But the truth is that now I have vitality. Now I have energy because the only way that you can increase your energy holistically is through these practices of Kundalini yoga therapy, which through meditation, through breath, through the way we position our hands, we can actually change the flow of energy from within us and release ourselves from the ugly, ugly addiction we have to cortisol. Now I know that this seems like something that would is easy to follow, but there are some common pitfalls that a lot of women fall into. And the number one pitfall is that it is so easy to overlook these signs or to misattribute them. And that's what happened with me. And unfortunately, because I did that, it wasn't until I actually had the nervous system breakdown that I had to stop. It was either stop what you're doing or die. It was that serious. So the most common pitfall is not acknowledging the subtle ways these patterns are manifesting in both your professional life and your personal life. And also not acknowledging that if you want success in your business, you have to deal with your trauma. You have to deal with the generational patterns of beliefs, the mindset that was bestowed upon you that continuously blocks you and it makes you hit these invisible ceilings that basically block you from the success that you're here to reach. In fact, the mindset shift we really all have to learn to adopt is to be able to understand that in order to move from feeling bound by these patterns to actually embracing empowerment and liberation in all aspects of our lives, we have to absolutely do the inner work. We have to absolutely address those energy leakages, which are causing us to use the energy for destruction instead of creation. So if you yourself are struggling to identify or break free from these patterns, it is so crucial for you to start to reflect on your own personal experiences. I mean, ask yourself, how do these patterns manifest in my life, in my business? And what can I start to do to actually disrupt them? I encourage you to reflect on this professional journey, but also your personal lives. And do this over this week because tomorrow is the winter solstice. So whether you're listening to this now or at any time, there is always divine timing with whenever you are downloading or connecting to this message. But in either case, we're in a window, in a portal of a complete rebirth, of going from darkness to light. The winter solstice opens up an opportunity for all of us to truly harness the energy that's being projected onto the earth as we now come into balance with the darkest, longest day of the year, the longest, darkest day of the year, to use this energy to realign with our destiny, to charge up our systems through meditation, and to create a safe haven for the Christ consciousness to be born in us. Because Christmas is not about celebrating a guy's birthday. It's about celebrating what is the light that is being born within you. So especially during this week, I'm sure you probably already did your business plan. I hope you did, because we're already almost in the last week of December. But have you done your energy plan? That's one of the things that I talk to the women in my community all the time. That is my priority. I absolutely have a business plan. I have the strategies. I have all of these things, right? Because I have a business coach as well. But that's not my most important thing. My most important thing is my energy plan, meaning what does my morning sadhana meditation look like? So that I could support myself in the stress that comes with growth, in the stress that comes with scaling my business, in the stress that comes with a new mindset that I have to have for a new level of income, all of those things. And stress is not bad. It means you're growing, but it's how we manage our stress that dictates whether these epigenetics of genes that turn on in us of addiction or depression turn on, versus if we continue to activate the also great things that your ancestors gave you. Because now, instead of activating the things that grandpa gave me about the squandering of the money, I can activate what he also taught me, which is he was incredibly charismatic. He was incredibly honest. He had a character. He really, really did help a lot of people. And he was not afraid to continue to have an abundant mindset, which is why he was so free about giving it away to a lot of different people. So it's not just ancestral trauma that we carry. Even if our ancestors struggled with business, money, or whatever it is, there's still a foundational gift that they've left you that you can only discover if you break through from these patterns by doing the work. So quick recap. Remember, your ancestor story don't define your professional destiny. You have the power to rewrite your success story. Now, if you have any questions, comments, if this is something that has repeatedly been happening in your life, I want you to comment below on this YouTube video. Let me know what questions come up. What is some of the awareness that you're experiencing that is really related or resonating to what it is that I'm talking about? Comment below. I'd love to get your feedback and learn more about what it is that you're going through as well. And thank you. Thank you so much for being part of this community. Thank you for liking this video. It really does help support the channel. So I appreciate all of the likes, all of the comments, all of the shares, and thank you for subscribing. By subscribing, you are joining and fostering empowerment through reclaiming your sovereignty from these generational karmic patterns that no longer serve you, and reaching a level of success that you could never imagine before. I'm talking about success, body, mind, and spirit, success in personal and in your business relationships. Be well, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. 7.